On this edition of FedGov Today with Francis Rose, a set of zero trust solutions for the whole Defense Department.
What we try to do with the zero trust activities is not based on one type of vendor solution, but they should be applicable to any environment.
Will Schmitt of the Pentagon's Zero Trust Program Management Office on FedGov Today in just a moment. Uniting program strategy, advanced technology, process, and execution for a more efficient government. That's Maximus. Every program, every service, every time. That's innovation forward. Learn more at maximus.com/federal. Defense Department components have 3 solutions now to their zero trust dilemmas. The director of the Zero Trust Program Management Office at the Pentagon, Randy Resnick, says more are coming this year, too. Will Schmitt is Technical Portfolio Management Division Chief in the Zero Trust PMO. At TechNet Cyber in Baltimore, I asked him how his office evaluates the components of those solutions.
What we've done is we canvassed the community, the vendor community, for solutions working with our government partners. So the initial part was to try to look at different COAs. And what I mean by that is, legacy uplift, which is our COA one, like a Thunderdome. Also looking at COA 2s, which is commercial service providers. They tend to be Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and Oracle. And then also some COA 3s, which is a standalone government-owned operated cloud solution. And right now, Dell is a good example of that. By doing that, we've selected several in each one of these categories. And then what we do is we apply our zero trust functional assessment strategy to each one to determine whether they're able to meet target level or advanced level zero trust.
As you've gone out and talked to the vendors, the interaction with them, I imagine, has been important going both ways, both for you to learn from them and them to learn from you. What's that exchange like? What are the ideas and concepts that are exchanged in those kinds of conversations?
Another good question. So first of all, what we try to do is we try to determine whether the environment actually is capable of meeting target level zero trust. What that usually means is we walk through the 91 target activities, either through some sort of spreadsheet or survey. A lot of questions come back about, how are you assessing us? What does it mean to meet zero trust outcomes? And so part of that we do is we have a kickoff meeting where we'll bring our Purple team on with us, and we'll discuss basically how we're doing, which is the activities, and then we call zero trust outcome acceptance criteria, which we develop, which look at the 10 really critical things when it comes to zero trust, meaning who your identity is, or is that identity valid? Are you able to do identity role-based or attribute-based access, things like that. But the most key part of it is getting to know what their infrastructure is, and how they've set it up, so then we can then work closely and quickly together with them. This whole strategy is a team type environment where we use a Purple team, which means we have the Red team, which is the aggressor doing penetration testing, or actually inside the system as a threat. And then we have a Blue team, which is a defender. And what we do is we go through it. We're checking to see what something happens. If there's a failure, then they go fix it and we recess it again. And in the end, both the system is much more cyber hardened, meeting zero trust, and then we get the results we want to see, which is, are they capable of meeting target or advanced level zero trust?
How has that dialogue with vendors changed, in your view, over the time that you've been pursuing this zero trust strategy? It's been 2 years or so, if I recall correctly.
So I've been on a job for 21 months. The first one that we did actually was Flank Speed. We were both learning at that point, so part of it was we had to learn how to do this zero trust functional assessment. So at that time, it was much more based on the activities. And then what we learned from that also was that there was some POA&Ms that we developed, right? And so based upon that, we had to go back a second time, and on that second time, we were able to achieve advanced level zero trust. From there, we were then able to take those lessons learned, and each time that we've done another assessment, we've been able to tell the DoD component in the vendor up front what some of the things they need to prepare for up front. And so therefore, we've been much more successful in reducing the amount of time it takes to assess them and being able to come through without having a bunch of POAMs.
It occurs to me, actually, as you're describing that process, that you've been in this game, not you personally, but the department as well, have been in this game long enough now to see lessons learned and to see best practices that are shareable across the department and not just in that vendor to government dialogue. Am I on the right track
that's
there?
True. Yeah, because in the end, what we try to do with the zero trust activities is not based on one type of vendor solution, but they should be applicable to any environment, right? And so based upon that, we're not looking at for example, a specific configuration, but well, what are the outcomes we're looking for? And based upon that, we can have a common language that we can all work towards to be able to achieve that. And that's where we can share lessons learned.
Mm-hmm. What that common language that you just referred to, how will that go toward advancing the whole zero trust narrative? It strikes me that that's one of the challenges that the department has had. I mean, over the last 200 years that there's been a Department of War and then Department of Defense, getting the different pockets to speak the same language. So it strikes me that's a tremendous advantage to have.
It is, because in the end, in the past, it's been security technical implementation guides, security guidance, things like that tend to be very static and very specific to environment. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to keep up with the adversary. In this case, we're looking for achievement outcomes such as, is an adversary able to gain access within the environment? Are they able to, be able to reach a privileged account and then do lateral movement and then exfiltrate data? Mm-hmm. Those are really, least privileged concepts. And based upon that, then it's up to the whoever is doing the configuration to meet that, right? And so that's where the common comes in. If we could describe things in outcomes rather than specific steps, then that allows everybody to achieve an outcome in a different way, but yet we all reach the same goal.
So you have 3 zero trust solutions ready for implementation now. Randy Resnick told me earlier that there are a number of others in the pipeline. What comes next for the Portfolio Management Office, given that you've kind of you've at least taken a huge step toward achieving what the end goal is, which is zero trust deployment across the department?
So we'd like to see more solutions in each one of the COAs. For now, we have one for each, but definitely when it comes to COA 2, obviously the 4, that are on JWCC and any others, we want to be able to have more of those. Even with that, there's even some of these environments could be used in a COA 3, right? You could have a Google that's standalone on an IL6 SIPRNet, right? And so what we want to see is, more than just one, right? And so we do have some in the pipeline, each of those cloud vendors we talked about, and we're still looking for some, at least till the end of this year, until, and then by that time, we want people to start buying and implementing.
Will Schmitt of the Zero Trust Program Management Office at DoD at TechNet Cyber. You can read more about Zero Trust at DoD on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. The Navy's Enterprise Research Lab's in the spotlight on FedGov Today TV this Sunday morning at 10:30, on ABC7 in Washington, and on the FedGov Today YouTube channel. The commanding officer of the Naval Research Laboratory, Captain Jesse Black, is one of my guests. If you missed the debut of the show Sunday morning, you can watch it on demand anytime at fedgovtoday.com and on YouTube. The FedGov Today podcast returns next Tuesday. You can listen to every FedGov Today podcast anytime you want on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on demand at fedgovtoday.com. I'm Francis Rose. Thanks for listening.